Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here, and I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Nasser Zaghi, a civil engineer in Iran, practiced in Shiraz, involved in structural design and large projects, moved to United States in 1977, and through various events in his life, he realized conflict resolution and preemptive solutions to the world problems are a necessity. He self-started a project, which is a non-profit, and through his own funding, he has produced some great results. He has met with many national and world leaders to gather steam and support for his work. He believes in love and distribution of love as one of the means of creating long-term peace around the world. He hopes to gather enough support to be able to make that a lasting center or a lasting mission for a future organization. It is a great pleasure to have Mr. Zaghi here. His meetings with Dalai Lama and many other leaders around the world are stories that I'm sure we all love to hear. So please, I invite him to come and join us. Thank you.
Sorry for my broken language. I think so I better not to talk because I cannot talk any better than Doctor explaining what I'm doing. This morning I met Dr. Firuzi. I had a question for tomorrow. When I get involved a little bit with him, this later come to me and says, one of the speakers are not here and he wants to explain my project. I'm not a speaker, I'm not a philosopher, I'm not involved in any involvement. I'm just a civil engineer. I see hatred is a problem in the world, and I'm trying to do my share to help be free of hatred. To be honest with you, I don't know what I'm going to say. I try my best to communicate with you. Fortunately, a few of you are my friends, and it doesn't matter what I say, you know me well. My question for tomorrow, maybe probably I can share with you, but I wrote in Persian, I read it in Persian, so I says, استادان محترم، برای رسیدن به صلح واقعی در جهان، این سوال از شما هم دارم. بذاریم با هم این جلسه نیم ساعتی که با هم هستیم با هم شیر کنیم عقاید خودمون با هم دیگه. فرض کنید علت درگیری‌های مختلف برای رسیدن صلح واقعی نوعی عدم دانایی، فهم و آگاهی اکثریت مردم باشه. تصور کنید تأسیس International Peace Education Foundation، یعنی سازمان فرهنگی صلح‌جویانه بین‌المللی امکان پذیر باشه. تصور کنید که بودجه این بنیاد از طریق 1% بودجه دفاعی کلیه ممالک دنیا تأمین بشه. سوال: به نظر شما چه نوع پیسفول ادویکیشنی برای مردم دنیا لازمه که تعلیم ببینن؟ دوم، من با بودجه شخصی خود بنیانگذار سازمان غیرنفعی لاویز سولوشن هستم که پروژه بالا رو به اجرا بذارم. سوالی که دارم ازتون، آیا در وقت مناسب میتونم از شما کمک بگیرم که از عقاید شما استفاده کنم؟ which part? Okay. Assuming the conflict existing in the world is because of lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, and lack of awareness. Assuming there is a possibility to have International Peace Education Foundation, and assuming that financing for this organization could happen through 1% from defense budget. Now it's my question is that I need that answer for continue my project. What type of peaceful education we need for human being? Number two, I ask if somebody interested to talk to me, help me for my plan to go forward for this project. I have to mention that I financed it by myself. The reason is because I don't want something to stop the project. I believe the conflict existing in the world is because of lack of knowledge, understanding, and awareness. And this is end up that people on the earth hating each other. Okay, so if you seriously want to have a real peace, not controlling peace, because I think that the conflict existing, I cannot help it to have an immediate solution. This is too complicated. But at the same time, probably we can have a seed of peace in the world for future by having a peaceful educational organization in the world, educate people not to hate each other because nobody can get benefit. Now, I have a practical plan because everybody is saying about the conflict, everybody say what should done, what should do, but nobody say how to do it. I don't want to get involved in what is love or what is a solution. I want to actually offer a solution for peace. So, please, if you have any question for me, ask me how I want to do that, because I'm just one civil engineer, I'm not loaded, I'm talking too big, talk about some project, like there is no bigger project this in the world, like in the past, in future, or now. So who I am, I want to do this. I start this way, okay? I started this project 10 years ago by starting to mention love is a solution. And people argue with me, what's love? So obviously everybody has his own definition for love. Then I define love as a joyful acceptance, fairly doing your best. Then people argue with me, what is acceptance? What is fairness? What is doing your best? I try to have it like a dictionary type to explain my wording, then end up to having a book. So it was interested to the publisher to publish this book not as a peace project, as like a coffee table book. So this book I worked with is like 7 years. It's going to be released later this month, maybe. It's on the way. It's published in China. So what I'm trying to do is this, how I want to do that. I believe media can help a lot for the project to get the attention of all the media in the world. I have a plan to have 300 people, 215 from different countries, 180, 90 people from different level, like business, philosopher, scientists, lawyers, and they have a gathering in United Nations or maybe in San Francisco. What I'm telling to you, this is not talking. This is, I'm starting the project, I am doing it. So, up to the point that we invite all those people, I can finance it myself. I cannot afford for that gathering because there is a lot of security needed. We are talking to people who are interested like Bill Gates, and some people are willing to be sponsored for one of those people who are going to participate in that project. To be able to do that gathering, I need some tool to work with because nobody listening to me. Like having a meeting with Dalai Lama or Tony Robbins or Pat Riley or those people, or Muslim leader, Jewish leader, it's not easy. So I have done a lot. So I got the approval from all the religion like Muslim, Jewish, Baha'i, Zoroastrian, all kind. I have already have in writing. Of course, everybody says who is the leader for Muslim, who is the leader for Jewish. Some people, you know, that have a lot of followers. Lately, they're inviting me for a lot of gathering for peace. I've been invited in Fiji Island that was financed by Tony Robbins. That was amazing, that was beautiful. Atmosphere was different, they spent a lot of money just for a few, like 10, 12 people. I was fortunate they invite me too. That was an achievement for me for be able to talk to different type of people to get the endorsement. I am putting together an endorsement book for all influenced people to get the attention for having for the gathering for those groups we want to have for peaceful education organization. We are almost about to start a movie showing 2010, showing the world without hatred. The story is about like a family of 4 moved from New York, coming to San Francisco. They buy my house, which is they have to demolish and build a new house. They will find a book. They see the word of hatred. And they're supposed not to do it. They know what the hate means. Because like now we are getting together, we decide from tomorrow, new generation, don't experience hatred, don't witness hatred, so 100 years from now, none of us are existing, so they don't know what hate means. So they go to father and parents and they says, okay, what's hate? The parents doesn't know what it is. So they research the history, they go to dictionary, this and that, they find out, and they start, the movie starts, showing 5,700 years ago, based on Old Testimony. I'm not talking about the universal years, I mean, documentary books, and showing from Abil Qabil, they kill each other, then everybody is damaging from hatred, Jewish, Muslim, Baha'i, killing all these years. This is going to be very adventurous, you know, and up till now, as from now on, for 100 years, going to be like imaginary types, you know, showing that. I'm trying to show that we have a damaged minded in some extent, each of us. I'm born Jewish from Shiraz. I witnessed a lot of discrimination. I'm trying to behave myself, but there's still some things I have in my mind, so I experience or I've been witness hatred. I know we have a short of time. If you have any question, I am here to answer you. Please. Okay, that's an interesting question. You know, thank you for asking that question. In the beginning when I was there, he thought that I am a part of the Muslim community, and he looking to everybody, told everybody that you, Shia and Sunni, better to get together, don't fight, forget about the politics. And he touched my shoulder and says, don't pray that much, do something. So it was like a permission for me to talk when he said that. I said, we are 1400 years killing each other. Do you expect us to overnight be in peace? And everything is politics. How we can forget the politics? And I'm not praying I have a project. I want to offer you that you have a power, bum, bum, bum. Help me to do this project. And he asked the project. I explained to him almost, it takes 25 minutes. I have his picture here. I can show it to you how he was looking at me, because I was talking the same way I talk to you, like a very simple way. And at the end of the meeting, he told me, I support your project. So there was a few people there. That was another success for me, because other people was agree with my project. When I was in Fiji also, every single people have been there. They approved the project, they read my book, they signed the book, and that's it. I hope I answer your question. You know, he's okay, but I don't think he's thinking practical. He's a wonderful person, of course. He's talking about the peace, but he doesn't say how to get to peace. Okay, that's beautiful. Another question. I'm so happy you're saying that. Listen, when people have a conflict with each other, you cannot say, okay, you are outside, we make a peace with you. Bin Laden is a part of the peace. Saddam Hussein has been killed, was a part of peace. Hitler was a part of peace. I'm Jewish, okay? The victim, you know, the victim are, how do you say it? We think they are guilty, but to me, everybody is guilty first, be a victim. You have to see how Saddam Hussein raised. We have to see how Bin Laden raised. Then we have to say they are victim or not. This is exactly happened in Fiji Island, and the atmosphere was wonderful. It's the best. Look, you know, they invite us to Los Angeles, from here to Fiji. They go another island, beautiful place, and they were meditating to enjoy more and more. So I had a broken rib. I tried to be there. I was suffering, sleeping or waking up was a project for me. But I see everybody enjoying themselves there, and they're supposed to come to have a peace, to solve, you know, talk about peace. So some of them are broken language like myself, so I was able to talk to. It says, I want you to close your eyes. I told everybody. Okay, they was listening to each other. It says, assuming all your part of family, wife, husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, they have been killed by other groups, and they destroy your house. You have nothing left. Obviously, you are going to show some reactions. It's not going to be a good reaction anyway. Okay, at that point, are you guilty or victim? I'm asking you those questions. Is Bin Laden is guilty or victim? I mean, so at least you have a doubt of mind that's not guilty. So what we have to do it, because we are so weak, because we don't know what to do, we kill a terrorist. Okay, fine, because we have no choice. Like a snake come here, he wants to, okay. But it's a shame on us that we have a new Bin Laden, we have a new terrorist. We got to do something about that. And plus the way I go to this, you know, I am totally looking from different angle. I don't say not to do, I said you want to do it. But you have to pay the price. You know, if we prove to terrorists that what they're doing is not good for them, to educate, maybe we can somehow handle them. Please. Yes. Exactly. I told you from tomorrow new children has to rise. You are a nurse. No, we don't. No, I don't want to. No, we are not separating nobody. No. So that's why we need peaceful international peace education. You're absolutely right. Okay. This is me. I have to introduce that lady to you. She's a wonderful nurse. She's a beautiful lady. Asking, you cannot separate the children from the parents. You have to, everybody has to start from his own family, not to hate, love, this and that. But if you remember, I was offering to have a international peace education foundation, because to begin with, we don't know what the problem is. And nobody asked me how I want to convince having the budget for that from the defense budget. I am proving to different countries by the economy, writing this and that, getting a lot of help, to showing every country, they raise the defense budget every year. And they got to do it, raise it another year, and a year. Like for Israel, they always asking for money for defense budget, and they always have shortage. But I proved to them that if they contribute some of the money from defense budget for education, they are going to need less money, or at least not that much, for defense budget and killing. So for every dollar, they have 99 cents to defense or to kill, 1 cent on the side to educate people. But what type of education, I don't know. If you have that money, we need some years. You know, my project is like 100, needs time. You are not talking about overnight. What you offer is wonderful, but how you want to make people convinced? Go ahead. I'm basically, I think they believe that getting to peace It's kind of difficult because of Bin Laden, Bush, bomb, 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 bomb. You know all those things. Fortunately, I'm working this project for 10 years. And your question have been raised, is raised all the time. That's absolutely, you're right. If you, at the beginning of my speech, I told you that, I believe I explained, I don't recall. You know, assuming you have a tree, old tree, and there's a lot of problem you have with the tree. You know the tree is going to be destroyed, something happen. Or assuming that you have 100 people, or 100 doctors, they have a cancer. First, they have to understand they have a cancer, and then they shouldn't let this transfer to their children. Those 100 people, they are going to be, treat themselves to survive. Right now, the problem in the world is so much, this is impossible to get a peace immediately, even 25 years, even 50 years. Look, Jewish, I have a research I'm saying to you, okay? Jewish people have been suffering from the hatred a lot more than, I cannot say more, I don't have a record, but I know they have been suffering a lot. They are working on the peace project more than anybody else. I have one Jewish, except myself. None of the Jewish believe peace is going to happen. So unless we believe peace is possible, we cannot get to peace. And I know there is so much difficulty, you know, there is so much conflict of interest. There is oil companies, there is a lot of subject has been raised to me that they don't let you happen. You saw this morning there was talk about 90% of the money, those who have 10%. No. We all have on the table those things. Now what we have to do? Please. I'm sorry. منم دوست دارم فارسی صحبت کنم نمیدونم فارسیم شاید بهترم باشه میخوای فارسی بگیم من اگه لازم شد You can talk, then I've answered your questions. Okay, my friend believe that people are trying to defend themselves in the whole history. That was basically talking about the people are working to defend themselves. I have an answer. If you want, is related? Yeah, me? Oh, you want me to be there? No. I became nervous. First time I'm talking more than two people.
Please come on. Yes, make it easier for باشد. I'll translate. Ever since the human civilization started, defense was one of its main contributions and one of the main important parts of the human survival. So that defense has remained. The war and fighting has been part of the human history. It cannot be avoided, and the future could hold wars between planets and other existences that we don't know about. I think that's what you were trying to point out. Yes, please. Go ahead.
My question is, do you think that peace is even possible with Zionism and American imperialism the way that it is now? Both have to stop. Israel can't defend itself against all the enemies that it has around her without the United States back. And the United States can't work towards peace without building an army big enough to keep the terrorists and the Palestinians away from Israel. How do you resolve that?
The comment that just came through was about Israel and Zionism and the U.S. And the two conflicts theologically and philosophically are not easy to resolve that easily, which leads to conflict and therefore wars.
Thank you. I believe that International Peace Education Organization we're talking, you just started by discussing this issue here. You're absolutely right. I used Israel as an example. That's not only about Israel. This is all over. The problem is Iraq, everywhere. For your question, you're absolutely right. But I cannot think that big. I'm talking about now that we are living together to be in peace until the other part of the universe fighting with each other. At least we can reduce this conflict. I asked like 1 cent per dollar for education, 99 cents is still to kill. That's not too much I'm asking. I don't say it's just stop killing or just stop fighting or just stop defending yourself. If I be educated, I know you are not that, but maybe it's easier for you to kill me that, I want to reduce the hatred in some extent to be able to survive. I'm not educated that far to see about the universe, what's going to happen. You're absolutely right. You know, I mean, when you are under pressure, you find a way out. And one of the pressure we are when somebody attacking us, we do something about it. You know, maybe some of the things happen because if the other needs, you know, we need electricity, we need other things. That's what happens. It's not only about the defense in ourselves. And what I'm doing here now, because of my personal experience, I'm doing this, you know. This different type of need. It's not only fighting. That's my, please.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you because we have to, as human beings, we have to start from somewhere, no matter how small it is. I've met Dalai Lama too. I've spent 4.5 months in Tibet, living with Tibetan people. I've been in India. I've been in search of what you've been, you know, trying to find answers for. And I'm willing to, I have a publication, Rahavard Persian Journal. It's a quarterly publication in Persian and in English. And I want to volunteer to help you in any way we can. Truly. But I believe, as he is saying, anything you start, if from the beginning you start thinking negative and start questioning and thinking about the obstacles instead of thinking positive and going forward with small steps, I think that's the only way to achieve it. And it would take, to me it seems what you're saying, it would take generations. We might start helping him with this project. We might die and other people take over. But finally, we might get somewhere. We can't just sit still and do nothing.
Without what?
More violence.
Do you want more violence than what's happening now, you know?
I'm saying, do you think it's possible to achieve world peace eventually, generations from now, without violence, without more hate?
No.
Let me read you something here in the response to your question. I have it here, okay. Some people have argued with me about the idea of love as a solution. They have told me that the idea is wonderful, but they believe it is impossible. I believe it is really a simple thing. All that's needed is to believe that peace is possible, to practice living with love, and to give this concept time to evoke change in our lives and the world. We need to believe it's possible. I'm not saying it's possible. At least let's believe it. Like somebody is sick, at least believe that we can help him out to survive. If you think at the beginning he's not going to, you're not going to do nothing. The power of mind is incredible. Please, sir.
One.
Let me give you some I am researching love as a solution in different fields, in everything last 10 years. Anything's happened, I try to see how love is solution working. I have two good friends. Actually, most of you know them. I'm not going to mention them. In San Francisco, I know them over 50 years. Wonderful friend, playing cards, socializing, family friends. And they had a real estate transaction. They both are close friends to me, and both of them said, من با خونش تشنم، من خونش رو میخورم. I says, I want to see how love is a solution in that case. I invite them I asked him, okay, please come to see Mr. So-and-so. He said, no, 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 no. The other person, the same thing. I said, I've been living both of you for so many years. Only give me 5 minutes. So they hesitated. Finally, they agreed to come to see each other. I invited them in somewhere, and I asked them, no talk about the business, nothing, just come to see each other. They said, finally they came, then when they saw each other, they see it like seeing Bin Laden or Hitler or so bad. They sit down, I give them some tea to drink, and one of them starts talking. He says, no, no, don't talk. Just here, we come here to have a drink, we cut tea and go, that's it. Sitting 5 minutes there, we have Qalion, smoking a little bit, socialize, and when they want to talk, he says, no, don't talk, let's go. When they left, they look at it much better way than when they come in. And then after that, I go to see them. I says, you know, what are you feeling now? He says, are you thirsty with his blood? No, no. What do you do? He says, I want to break his legs. You know, he's going to break his leg, fine, but he's not drinking his blood. I mean, it works. And another example. Because I'm born Jewish, if you remember in Olympic, the Jewish didn't play, Iranian didn't play with Israeli and they quit. So I used to be a volleyball player. They know me back home. And I was graduate in Pahlavi University, and I used to be in clothing business. I thought myself, you know what, love is a solution. Let's see what we can do here. I sent a container of clothing to Iran through some Islamic people. I said, you know, I'm from Iran, I'm born Jewish. I want to help young people just to help them to exercise. I didn't even mention they are under drug or nothing else. Just I want to help them to exercise. Honest to God, they send me, I have it, I show it to you if you wish, with a frame khatam, writing so many good things about me and send it to me. I bet you if I go there, they put me a red carpet as a Jewish. It works. Love, when you know, of course, oh yeah, I'm dirty, okay, fine, I'm dirty, I'm Jewish, I'm not good, but I want to help you. You get the response. Okay.
Go ahead.
I tried the same thing. 7 years ago, I went to a list of insurance broker. Then I see the name of Zion. I was thinking he is a Jew and he is Israeli. When I talked to him on the phone, he was from Lebanon, and but when he talked, I was for sure that he is a Jew from Israel. But I go to his office and I see the office no any picture. Just I looking around and I see a Quran there in the corner. Not any picture. Then I start to talk and I say, you are from where? He said, I am from Lebanon. And later on, when I connect with him, anytime I start to ask to say about Muhammad, he stand up and say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. That was so much deeply involved with the religion. Then he make it 5 times a day, namaz, and I start to be friend with him, and I give him the business. I start the relation. I talk to him. He had a young guy, as a help. Then he was so much That was exactly sometime before the 9/11, and he was so he was like a suicider. He talked to me, yeah, the Jew, the Israeli, something like this, like this, like this, and I was afraid with him. Then finally, after 2-3 times, I go there, then this guy disappeared. When 9/11 happened, then he moved from there. I was continue to be help with him, to be friend with him, and I am today. Anything I want to say against the Islam, against the Muhammad, I say to him. He stay very religious guy, but he is too much friend to me because of treat him as a friend. That work. Now I suggesting to you, if you want to be friend as a Israeli guy or as a Jewish in the world, start to have with them, educate them. He doesn't know anything about Muhammad, what Muhammad was, what he did. When I talking about Ben Qarize killing 850 people, and the next night when he cut the throat everyone, then he take 2 of the good beautiful women from the group and take it in the bed. When I say everything to him, I know it, he don't know it. Still he is very religious, but he believe me now, we are not like enemy, we are not. When I talking about 48, when he talking about 1948, now the big problem was 48, they gave it. No, I explained it to him. 1914 start to be built the Jordan, Lebanon. Before, no Palestinian government, no Palestinian land, no. That was everything from Osmani, but they don't know. They don't know. We have to educate them. Not like we cannot. Israel started from the internet to have some. They email it every time. Many of this history about the Israel, how it was 2,700 years ago, how they built Israel, how they built today Israel, etc., etc. But who read them? We, the Jew, read them, or we Iranian, we read them. Maybe we email it, but I email it every time. But I receive such things, I email it to him, and I say, "Hello, Hisham, see that, see that, see that," and he is a good friend to me. Right now, we have to start to have people. Maybe in the group is impossible, but people with the people.
Well, next question. If you can please make it short so we can hear comments about. That's okay. I understand there is heartfelt sentiments about all this, but it's good to make it short so we can hear.
Okay. The imperialist country, they name their organization which they attack another country defense department. And small third world countries like Iran, Iraq, or those people, they said war department. Yeah, exactly. And also, I respect a lot of Jews, but I do not respect Zionism. And the thing is, unfortunately, look at here, how many people came here for peace. I came from 2 o'clock, 5 minutes to 2, look at here, nobody was here. I came 2:05, nobody was here. I came 2:30, a few people came and I sat here. Look at here, be realistic. How many people are interested in peace and speech of peace? And look at the media how much Bush and his friend have TV and everything. How we can, with this many people, can be against those people. They have defense organization or department. How could we go along with that?
Say something. Just 1 second. Do you know, you said, I'm sorry, no offense. You said you respect Jews, but you do not respect Zionism. The minute you say you do not respect Zionism here, hate starts here. Of course, first, we should know what does Zionism means, how did it start, where did it go. If I am a Zionist, fine, but as long as I do not hurt you, I can have that idea. But why did it start? And when we say we do not respect something, this is the beginning of hate. That it is so nice that you're so interested in peace, but I believe we should be a little bit more tolerable.
I just wanted to pass could I have just 1 second, please? Opinions and philosophies differ, but reaction to them is what sets the world on fire. So the fact that people have different opinions and different philosophies certainly doesn't mandate a war or a conflict. How we respond to it, it makes a huge difference. So I think the education that Mr. Zaki is talking about, it goes back to that exact thing, that you can certainly disagree, but you do not have to create wars as a result of that disagreement.
What I'm offering, if one person from 6.5 billion on the earth against what I'm saying, I'm going to stop what I'm doing. You know, you open a chapter that has been discussed all the time. We all have a cancer of problem, our mind, those things. It's no good to get back to those points. There have been discussion, many books about the Zionism, many books anti-Zionism, many books about Jewish, Muslim, this and that. We have to change our looking at the subject differently. First time, I try to talk to Muslim. I have a lot of experience with everybody. I'm telling you, I'm working 10 years full-time, day and night. Like last night from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, I was thinking to see how I raise my question to get my answer, okay? I asked so many people, Muslim leaders, says, I want to see how love is related to the Muslim. So many people say, oh, come on, you know, sorry, okay. Finally says, no, it's impossible. Because I want things positively. I want to find some things nice, okay? I find somebody through a friend of mine, go to Sayyid Mehdi Khorasani. He's a little bit more open-minded. I went to him, I says, I have no knowledge. I come to you. I want to see if I'm crazy or I have something to say. Because he's a big shot, you know, I'm just a like normal person. He says, okay, says, I said, you see all these books here, they have some place in San Rafael. The church is like 5 times as here. Loaded with books all over. Loaded with carpets, so everything you see there. And he was accepting me to talk to me. I says, I have 4 words. Love, acceptance, fairness, doing your best. All this book you have, I'm sorry, I just may be crazy. Can you add 1 word to this? Honest to God, when I talked to him, I was writing, I used to write, love, acceptance, fairness, doing your best. And then he grabbed that paper out of my front. He says, what? He says, it's good. He says, let me write now. I go, no, I don't need that. And then after 12 days, exactly 12 days, he called me. He says, I want to come to see me. He says, I practice this because he's a mediator between Muslim, and I solve everybody's problem with this your formula. And he says, are you willing to write it for me? He says, and he wrote for me, it's in my website, you will see it. And I did the same thing with the Jewish community. With the Jewish community, I have to share that video. They thought that I'm promoting Jesus, so they didn't respond to me. This is because everybody give you a label, no matter what you're doing. And then finally, one of my friends introduced me to a rabbi in Los Angeles, in Ventura, Valley Bet Shalom. Is a wonderful person. I don't know if you know him or not. And then I see him, I said, you know what, I have 4 questions. I know the answer, I want you to answer those questions. He says, what is it? I said, Jewish as a love? Oh yes, Bereshit, B, the middle bomb, all over is love. Okay, fine. I said, Jesus talk about love? He says, yes. Jesus was Jewish? Yes. He says, something is belong to me, I cannot talk about it. He says, who say that? I show him, I spent $7,000 on the paper to get the response from somebody. Says love is a solution from Jewish. They think, I didn't notice that love is Jesus, God is love. My mind wasn't in that direction. So he wrote me something so beautiful. What he says, oh God, love in Hebrew is ahava. Ahava, when you add those together, is going to be 13. When 2 people love each other, it's going to be 26. And Yahovah is 26. So when you love each other, then God is there. So when you get those statements from Jewish community, and when you get a statement from Khorasani, it says, oh yes, so and so, oh yes, so and so. It says all about love in Quran. I am not defending Quran. I'm not defending Jewish. I am a middle person. I have no knowledge. What is right, what is wrong. If you see my website, you see all people are against each other. Sayyid Ismail Khoyi is like totally against religion. Muslim, Jewish, bamba. So I trying to act like a middle person. So I have no side. And I practice my religion now with love. So I think it can work if we don't go back to the Zionist, anti-Zionist, what Jewish says, what Muslim says, what Quran says, what Torah says. What happened to you? We don't go nowhere. There is 1.5 billion on the earth. What do you want to do with them? How many of them you can convince that Quran is right or wrong? How many Jewish can come? Go to Ventura with Boulevard. You see hundreds of synagogues, everybody is against each other. More than you against, you know what I mean? We don't getting argued. Let's talk about love going forward in that direction. To respond to you that we have to start from ourselves, it takes years for me to be peace in myself, not overnight. You know me, Puran, very well. It takes so many years, 5, 6 years to be peace with myself. It takes some years to be with peace my own family. So finally, after 7 years, I have like 200-300 first cousins. And all they have the problem with each other. They are from Iran, come here. They didn't invite for the wedding. They was inviting for bomb. They didn't pay each other. All kind of problem you can imagine, okay? I talk to every single one. I put a gathering together. I invite everybody in Los Angeles. Honest to God, I was so busy. I don't know if Puran was then or Abby was. When I had only 30 seconds to go through those people, because I was running the show. You cannot imagine what I had a feeling between those. I don't see them at all. I see just at night. I don't mean that, So you are absolutely right. We have to start from ourselves. Even working in ourselves, it takes time. We have to meditate all the time. What I'm saying is not easy job. Somebody didn't answer your hello, you will never forget. Somebody doesn't invite you for, not you, I mean general, invite you for somewhere, or they put you a different table to sit down. You never forget that. So hatred is so deep, Sorry, I talk too much.
Come closer, please.
We need to be smart, and we need to find out what has caused all these problems from the beginning of humanity. Religion is only one thing, the only single one that's causing all this death, all this destruction, all this animosities, everything. So first, human should be smart, learn how to get rid of the religion. Religion time has passed. We need to find something else. The minute you say you're Jew and I'm Muslim and this, then we see they are killing each other. So we cannot say I have love, but at the same time I am Muslim and then you have, this is not going to work out. We have to get rid of the religion. We have to teach our children. Meditation, you say that, yoga, being at the moment, being happy, helping each other, making a new religion, making something new. We don't call it religion, but say this is how humans should be. We are all human. But first we have to get rid of something that has caused all the destruction. And as long as that exists, it's going to continue. So first we have to replace it with something better.
Thank you.
You know, you are absolutely right, but how it works, you know, people are raising differently. We are 7 brothers. We are totally have different idea because we raised last 30 years in different area. So how do you expect that we have the same belief? We have to, I believe, religion is personal. I can practice any way I want in my room. I can have the way I want to have sex. I have to have the way I want to go to restroom or the way I want to pray. But I cannot tell you what to do or what not to do. We are all have different opinion. We raise differently. You are right, but how we can get to the point that forget all religion? You know what? This morning they told us 90% of the raising donation is going for the religion. How you want to stop that? Look on the Sunday morning on the TV, there is 5, 10, 20, 100,000 people listening to one person. You are right, but how you want to do that? How? Tell me how to do it. You're telling me go to San Francisco, but you don't tell me how to go there.
Let me try to give my opinion about that. I think about this a lot. But look at the problem in the world is that the religion at this time played the main role in all the conflicts. It's not really the religion, it's the way and the different religion understand what's called God. You know, and there are lots of differences that are emphasized, and we talk about differences, but what we need to do, find some common grounds and work from there up. What is the common ground among all the religions? There is something called God. They are talking about God, okay? And supposedly this is the same thing, okay? Same thing, God. But there is misunderstanding, misconception. There is people kept in dark about even God and about what it is. What happened about the religion is that the God is forgotten. It is how you practice it, and then how you hate if somebody doesn't believe the same you believe. Okay, and that is what everything has started. The conflict has started, and it's getting to this point that we're killing each other because you don't believe the way I believe. And I say, if you don't believe the way I believe, you are not supposed to be alive. And this is not right. Dr. Nayeri talked about something very nice yesterday, which I believe, is asking a question is okay. It's okay to question everything, including God itself. Okay? So when you talk about education, that is the answer. They're talking about if peace is possible. Of course it's possible. We don't have any other choice. We have to go after finding a way. And education, if there is nothing other than education can help us. And the education starts from finding the root cause of the problem. Is the misunderstanding, or is what's called God these days, and the misunderstanding about that. So education can be starting by making the main question in the mind of the people, all the religious leaders, that maybe the way of thinking that we have about God, maybe it's wrong, maybe. Just give it a chance. Let's learn, let's educate ourselves, learn more about it. Maybe, and working together, because we have something in common, and that's God. Let's find out what this is, what this God is, and learn more about. I'm sure in a way of learning this, we are going to discover so much that's going to bring us closer to each other, rather than all the differences that we have. You want to pray this way, you want to eat this way, this is okay. It's your personal choice. It's not going to hurt anybody. But when you kill somebody, that's a different story. The only way that you can kill somebody that is acceptable is by killing with discussion. Discuss to death about everything. Talk to death. Sit down and day and night, talk about subject, talk about finding common ground to learn to what the heck is the problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. I personally think that when American people say ignorant is not knowing, is really true. I wish everybody would put a huge sign in their room said ignorant is not knowing. The reason we hate each other because we don't know enough about each other, I think. The reason the whole world is fighting because it's over religion, and the only reason it's over religion because we don't understand each other. Because as this nice lady mentioned that she likes Jews but she doesn't like Zionism, I can tell you that you probably don't know enough Zionism, that you hate Zionism because, well, you don't like, yeah, you don't like it, yeah. I mean, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I misquoted you. Yeah, okay. I'm just talking generally speaking. If we try to understand each other, if we try to learn about it, if we try to read about each other's religion, each other's personality, each other's life, I think we come to understand each other. I grew up in Iran. I grew up in Shiraz. I went to most of my friends to this day are Muslim. I had a friend in high school. I was in 7th grade. I met this girl that she said she hates Jews. And she said, but I love you. I said, how can you, I'm Jewish. She said, you're different. I said, how many Jews do you know beside me? She said, none. I said, then how can you say you hate Jews if you never met them and you don't know anything about them? She came to my house. She fell in love with my family. Now she knows everybody in my family. And they all love her, and that's what I'm trying to say. We have to learn about each other. We can just, we all been brainwashed from childhood that, this person is not good, that person is not good. I think it's time for us to learn something on our own. Try to forget what you have been brainwashed all your life. Try to learn something new. I have a Quran in my house, and I have an angel in my house. And we both always try to read, to learn about our friends, what they believe in.
Sure, please.
One moment, please. Thank you. Listen, this discussion doesn't go nowhere. Plus, we shouldn't take nothing personal. You can tell anything you want to. You can say, I hate you, you are a disaster to me. Anybody can say anything they want to. That's their problem. That's not my problem. If somebody tell me I hate you, that's his problem. I have to ask him how I can help you. You see, let's see somebody saying something, why and where this come from. Let's talk more peacefully to get to peace. This discussion have been all over. There's millions of books. There is library about those things. Go to inside, put some hater in their computer, you see million things. Put the signs, you will see those things. Let's look for things, Let's don't talk about God, let's talk about Creator. Creator is one, everybody, science also approved there should be something, Big Bang, maybe the God existing, Definition for God can have everybody in the zone. Let's talk more peacefully, go forward, because nobody get a benefit of that. Getting to arguing these things, we don't go nowhere. Even you don't know what's Zionism. Nobody knows what they're talking about. They have some experience. Assuming somebody beat you, says, okay, he's a bad person. Somebody help us, said, your judge is a good person. None of these makes sense. Please try to talk about peace if you have a little bit more time.
I think the minute human being learns we are the same, we're all the same, like biologically 99% of our body is the same. We're only 1% that makes our color, color of skin or color of eyes, they're different. So as long as we learn, we're all the same. And nobody is better than other person, there will be peace in the world. I think the problem is that always one group say, I'm better than the other, my religion is better. So if we learn that we're all the same and respect each other, I think there will be peace.
Well, would you like to make another comment?
Yeah. On a different subject, you mentioned the media as helping, as part of your friend in terms of your message for peace. But unfortunately, at least in this country, I feel like media is a part of the problem. And how do you go about changing that? Because I feel like a lot of people, especially in the US, more and more spend more time in front of a TV than talking to a person. And unfortunately, there's a lot of spin that goes on and misperceptions that carry. How do you go about in terms of changing that? Because I think it's a big, big part of why we have war in the world.
You're absolutely right. The media about the business. They try to make business. Like OJ was killing, they keep on the air for 2 years, spend the billions of dollars for they running their business. But what I say here, through media we can announce in the same time about 1 cent per dollar from defense budget to go back to their country to discuss the matter, to having a peace ambassador to follow. This is a part of my project. If one night, if like Dalai Lama, go to San Francisco, they will spend like a couple $1 million to have a security for 1 day he's there. Assuming you have 300 people at the same time in one place, and then you will see media as to reflect to all over the world. They give the message to the world. They have no choice, radio, TV at the same time. See the impact media can put in our project, because we want to convince other countries that they need to have a peace ambassador for participating in the National Peace Education Organization, dedicating 1 cent per dollar from defense budget for education. How we can do that? I find out if I can announce the same time in the world. It takes millions of dollars to do that gathering. But the reason for that gathering, at the same time announce every TV, every radio, all over talking about the discussion, and we are going to follow up with every country to introduce one peace ambassador talking in the country about dedicating 1 cent per. This is a huge project. This is not like overnight they accept, to every country you say we want from defense budget to educate, they laugh at you now that base, I'm trying to prove that point. Thank you you're absolutely right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a heartfelt session. Everybody's talked about some of the most sensitive topics that has led the world and the politics for many years. I just had to make my own last statement. I have not had a chance to voice it, but I'll just mention it. One thing we can all be sure of is that there is no way for all of us to be different and to be the same. We're all different. We all will be different. There's no equality. Some are born with great disposition, some are born with poor disposition, some more intelligent, some less. So there is nature by itself which is unfair. But that does not mean we cannot be fair to one another. So the fairness is not something we can always establish in this world. The second comment I'd like to make is science has much history of people who never believed. When smallpox was killing millions of people in Europe, when a gentleman in England thought he had a solution, Royal Academy of Surgeons disbanded him from practicing. They destroyed him. They said it's impossible. Viruses, which we didn't know what they were at the time, or bacteria, have killed people for many years. They'll continue to do that, and trying to fight them this way is criminal. Well, history showed that the gentleman who put millions of his dollars at the time on that project, the doctor who was kicked out of England. He could not practice, took his money, went around Europe, inoculated thousands of Europeans, and to some account he saved over 500,000 people from death. When we found out that smallpox, that he found solution to, was completely destroyed until lately when it surfaced again. So the antidote to this aggression seems to be present and seems to be available to us if we believe that we could find it. But certainly by kicking the doctors out or making a gentleman like Mr. Zaghi pay a huge price here for even mentioning it is not too much unlike what happened to the good doctor in 18th century. So there is a solution, but there is definitely a difficult one, but I think it goes back to every one of us. We have tried to bring people to this session and to this organization and to this meetings that we have established, and because of differences, ideological, religious, and otherwise, we have had difficulties doing that. That goes back to the mission that Mr. Zaghi is talking about and starts right from home and right from here. If we believe, we might be able to achieve it. And Mr. Firouzi, who started this 5 years ago, he believed in it despite all the comments he received at the time that it cannot be done. Well, it was done. And the last comment I'd like to make, and I think is very important one, has been the theology and religion has been really battered quite badly in these meetings. I just want to make one comment that many of the wars and killings, in excess of 80 million individuals during the past 200 years, has not been for religion. Nazi was not a religion, although maybe it had some backgrounds in it. It was a philosophy. And certainly Russia completely eliminated religion. So the problem is not religion. And I beg to ask you one question, and this demands an answer. If you wake up tomorrow with all three great religions of the world eliminated, do you think for 1 second that we won't have wars? Unfortunately, whatever philosophy you come up with, the addition of mythology to that will only create a hydra of new religions. And these new religions will be called New Age religions. And we have had over 40 of them created during the past 20 years. And unfortunately, many of them have resulted in death again. So the essential problem is deeper than just the theologies. And the last word I'm going to make is, all religions have great words, and I remember one word and one verse that I'll just recite to you is from the Bible. It's the New Testament, and it's the good St. Paul talking. And they asked him, what's important in life? He said 3 things. It is faith, hope, and love. And above all, it's love. And this is a real true statement that at the bottom of it all, most of our innovations in the world and most of our gatherings that has caused us to improve and come to the level of science and understandings we have so far have had those 3 ingredients. Mr. Edison had certainly faith in himself and in what he was doing. He certainly had hope for improving our conditions, and he certainly had the love of what he was doing. That brought electricity for all of us, for me to use this and have you all gather here. I thank you very much.
I have a website. If you wish, you can go to my website. You can send me an email, we can follow up.
With apologies that I be getting a little bit of a late start, but I'd like to introduce Mr. Moshiri to everybody. Bahram Moshiri, 35 years ago, immigrated to the States and received his master's in material science and chemical engineering. He has written extensively in the field of, he has spoken and written extensively in the field of science, literature, history, and has been well represented in the media. I think everybody, and I think everybody who's here probably has heard of him and has seen him, and I'm sure everybody is looking forward to listening to him. I will just bypass a lot of the other discussions and just go right to his talk with a great thanks to Mr. Mushiri for being here and being here for the past 5 years. Thank you very much, and please come up here. Welcome him.
So much water in here. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank you for participating. Okay. I was expressing my appreciation for your presence, and I'm glad to be here. Actually, today here, we are going to speak about a very important subject that concerns all of us, particularly at this point in time, where the present government in Iran is trying vigorously to develop nuclear technology in order to make... cannot hear me? Thank you very much. I always had this problem. Okay, that's all right. That's okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. Okay. Let's see. I said today we are going to speak about a very important subject that concerns all of us, particularly at this point in time where mullahs in Iran are trying very hard to acquire technology to produce nuclear weapons, despite the will of international community. As you know, this technology was developed during the end of Second World War, and fortunately for humanity, the possessors of nuclear weapons, they have resisted the temptation of using this in any operation, actually, against the enemy, even though they have come close 16 times. The first nuclear weapon was tested on July 16, 1945 at Trinity, New Mexico, and the first nuclear weapon to be used against man was dropped over Hiroshima. The second one, 3 days later, was used against Nagasaki. I'd like to give you a little bit of scientific background of how this science came about. As a matter of fact, on the morning of August 6th, 1945, from an American airplane, a Super Fortress B-29, a 9,000 pounds of bomb was dropped over Hiroshima. The gadget, as it was called, exploded over the city, actually releasing enough energy equal to 20,000 tons of TNT. When you look at the technology of the atomic theory in general, it goes back to old Greece. And I had brought with me a few pictures to show you. Unfortunately, the DVD did not work. But they all started in Greece, as a matter of fact. And I like to quote Sir Bertrand Russell about the civilization of Greece. He says, in all history, there is nothing more difficult and surprising that the rise of Greek civilization. He says, what they did in literature and art is known to everybody, but what they achieved intellectually is quite amazing. Atomic theory goes back to the time of Leucippus, and his students, Democritus. Of course, the ideas are so entangled together that you cannot separate them, that who said what. But it is known that Leucippus is the first scientist who talked about atomic theory, because they were thinking about the universe and the building block of universe, and they came up with atomic theory. Leucippus says that the whole physical universe is made up of small particles, they call it in Greek atomos, and then you become atom. And Democritus, as a matter of fact, who was his student, is known to have completed the theory in those days, of course. And there is a very famous phrase of Democritus who said, apparently there is sweetness, apparently there is hardness, but in reality there is only atom and void. And after Leucippus and Democritus, actually we have another thinker, Epicurus, who also followed the idea of Democritus and Leucippus. And when they asked him how the bigger objects are formed from smaller objects, he said, well, some of these things have hooks, some of them have holes. When they move around, these hooks, they catch the holes and the bigger objects are made. This is very simplistic. Of course, today we know that this is wrong. Chemical reactions take place either by electrovalence or by covalence. In another word, some of the elements, they have low, what they call ionization potential. They lose electron very fast, and some of them, they have a higher electron affinity, and they capture the electrons. So bigger objects are formed by chemical reactions. But the idea of Epicurus was very simple. He says some have hooks, some have holes, so when they move around, they catch the hole and bigger objects are formed. But anyways, after moving the center of education from Athens to Alexandria, we don't have much research seen in those areas. And the area that is called Islamic civilization, when the great brains came about, such as Al-Kindi, Avicenna, Razi, Al-Biruni, and others, they did not do much research about the subject. There is a passing comment about the subject. There is a letter at hand, Al-Biruni wrote to Avicenna asking 17 questions. And in one of the questions says, even though the old atomic theory has some discrepancies, but the idea of Aristotle is quite ridiculous, he thought, because Aristotle was opposed to the atomic theory. He thought of the world as one piece of continuous piece and did not believe in any atomic theories. And during the Middle Ages, we don't have any, actually, any research done, or we don't know about that, until we reach the time of 16th, 17th century. 17th century is the most important century in modern science. We have Kepler, we have actually Galileo and Newton. And after Newton, as a matter of fact, the science is revolutionized, and physics at the whole thought that everything was explained, and physicists stayed idle. They did not do much. We don't have much discoveries. But chemists were very active in 17th centuries. A lot of discoveries were made. Actually, people like Lavoisier came about, and the talk of atomic theory again became the subject of the day. And there was one experiment that pulled the physicists together, and that was the experiment that physicists were conducting of calculating the pressure exerted by the gas to the wall of container. And they applied actually the Newtonian mechanics without any results. They had to call in a very great physicist called James Clerk Maxwell. Maxwell came to the idea that Newtonian mechanics is not going to work, and he used statistical probabilities to calculate the pressure on the wall. And Maxwell is the person that actually talked about molecules and atoms and opened a new door to a new science that actually turned out to be modern physics. He calculated the speed and the heat, and physicists again came to scene, and modern physics started from there after Maxwell, James Clerk Maxwell. Those of us who studied science, we know that contribution of Maxwell to electricity and magnetism is unparalleled. And during the 18th century, a lot of discoveries were made. It became evident that water was oxygen and hydrogen, and elements were being discovered, as a matter of fact. And Mendeleev came about. We all have heard about Mendeleev, and periodic tables, and quantity and quality of the elements that are being discovered consecutively. And two great theories made all of this possible. I'm going very fast on the scientific background, so you don't get bored. The two great theories was quantum theories discovered by Max Planck, and as a matter of fact, general relativity by Albert Einstein, because a lot of experiments that they made, they did not have any tools to explain it. So these two theories could explain everything. I must add that Germany, in the beginning of 19th and 20th century, were center of physics. Whoever wanted to advance in field of physics or chemistry, they had to go to Germany. So Germany was the place to go to study advanced physics. And as far as beginning of this century is concerned, and radioactivity, which is subject today, we have Becquerel, Henry Becquerel. This Becquerel family were working on metals, and Mr. Becquerel realized there is a continuous flow of certain rays that would affect the photographic plate. He stopped the investigation and gave all of his paper to Mrs. Curie. Mrs. Curie and her husband were working at Paris, and Curie is the one that continued the research and discovered few elements like radium, polonium, and at the same time we have Rutherford. Rutherford is known to be the father of nuclear physics. Rutherford was from New Zealand, and he is the one who discovered actually the proton, predicted neutron, and electron already was discovered by J.J. Thomson in England. And when it reached about, let's say, 1910, 1920, atomic theory was almost completed. And they were working on the idea that if we have some uranium, how much energy do we have if chain reaction takes place? They had made some calculation. Actually, Rutherford made some calculations that if we have so much uranium, we have so much energy. But nobody knew how much uranium and how do we start a chain reaction. That was a very big problem until Otto Hahn came about in Germany. And one day he was working and bombarding the uranium, and he realized that the thing broke down and some energy was released. Otto Hahn knew the consequences of this, but he kept it secret. In the meantime, we have a scientist called Enrico Fermi. Enrico Fermi is one of the great experimentalists of 20th century. He was working in Italy. While bombarding the element uranium, he realized that the uranium gains neutron. So he called it transuranic element. He thought by bombarding the uranium, you may discover a new element, but he left the research there. And during this time, actually, Hitler came to power, and he would pass the laws against the Jewish physicists. You know, about 20 to 25% of the physicists in Germany were Jewish. I'm making it very short here. So they started to migrate to England and to America. And those who fled Germany were great physicists: Albert Einstein, Enrico Fermi, Beta Hans, the list goes on and on, Edward Teller, Leo Szilard. They were the great physicists who fled to America. And they had communication with their old friend in Germany. But all of a sudden, this communication stopped, and they thought that the Germans are capable of producing a nuclear weapon. And that's why few of them got together in New York. Edward Teller, Leo Szilard, and few others, Hungarians, came together and said, well, if you could calculate the critical mass, which was calculated by one of them in England, The Germans could do the same too, because there were still great physicists in Germany. People like Otto Hahn, as a matter of fact, Werner Heisenberg, a lot of capable people, but still live in Germany, even though the field of physics had become very weak. But they thought they could do it, and the thought that Hitler could have a nuclear weapon was very, very scary. So this is the turning point here in history of bomb making, what happened in New York when Leo Szilard and Edward Teller and Enrico Fermi came together and said, what do we do? And they realized that Albert Einstein was taking a vacation in New York, so they went to Einstein and explained. Of course, Szilard and Fermi had worked together, and they realized that the chain reaction is quite possible. And Einstein believed it, and they asked him to write a letter to the Queen of Belgium, because the country of Congo was very rich in uranium. And he said, well, you are a friend of the King of Belgium. If you write a letter to her, then they would stop actually importation of uranium from Congo. And Einstein was very happy to do that. This is a very famous letter. But then, after he wrote a letter, somebody said this is not going to work. Germans might take over Belgium, and then they would have all the mines. It is better to write a letter to President Roosevelt. And this letter is very famous. I have seen the letter myself in the museum. So Einstein wrote to Roosevelt that later research by Fermi and Szilard had proven to me that this is possible. And Einstein knew that Roosevelt was no physicist. So he explains what happens. He said, if you make a bomb of this material, if you put it in a ship and we explode it, the whole port will be destroyed. So Mr. Roosevelt could understand the consequences of the situation. Anyways, Mr. Roosevelt was wise enough to order a uranium committee, and that's where, as a matter of fact, the Los Alamos laboratory came about. So they said, we are going to have a manager for the military, and we have to put together a great team of scientists. So General Grove, as you know, became the manager, and Oppenheimer, who was the probably most famous American physicist of that time, he had studied in England and in Germany. They hired Oppenheimer to put a team of scientists together to produce a nuclear weapon. And Oppenheimer started looking around, and he invited Mr. Edward Teller, who you know, he died about 2 years ago. He's also known to be father of hydrogen bomb. Beta Hans, and great many scientists, most of them Germans, they were put together and sent to Los Alamos laboratory. Continuing Fermi's investigation about transuranium materials continued in Berkeley. Macmillan and Seeberg were working together. And Macmillan predicted if we bombard uranium-238, we might be able to create a fissionable material quite new. But Macmillan was actually invited to develop radar, and Seeberg at Berkeley produced plutonium. Plutonium is a man-made material, is a fissionable material. You can make atomic bomb from, most of the atomic bombs today are from plutonium, because it's very hard to have pure uranium or highly enriched uranium. But anyway, at the same time, plutonium was discovered, and the team at the laboratory were working on this project. It was a very difficult project. They didn't know how to start. The scientists were confused as to how much uranium we need to make a chain reaction go. Calculation ranged from few tons to few kilograms. One German scientist who had fled to Germany, in England, he calculated that you might be able to have a chain reaction go with about 15 pounds of uranium. They made a lot of tests at this so-called Los Alamos lab, and the first two nuclear weapons were made. And because England had helped, and Mr. Churchill and Mr. Roosevelt were good friends, they decided to share all the technical knowledge that they had. They would send all the scientists here. Whatever discovery they made, they would share it, and they still do, I think. And a lot of scientists from Germany, from England, I'm sorry, came here. And after all, neutron had been discovered by Mr. Chadwick, a great tool to break down the nucleus of the atom. So they were working together. The first two nuclear weapons that were made, they called them fat man, representing Mr. Churchill, and little boy, meaning Mr. Roosevelt. And of course, it was a top secret project, and they decided to use these weapons against Japan, as you know. There is lots of discussion about this, how they came up about such a decision to use nuclear weapon against people. Of course, this situation would never be settled, because we have both sides of the issue. Some people say, in case of attack to Japan, more than 1 million Americans would have been killed, more than 5 million Japanese would have been killed, but the opponent do not believe that, and a lot of people in the military still do not believe it, and they say it was a wrong idea to use a nuclear weapon against cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But it was very difficult to carry these things to Japan, because the United States still did not have the necessary means to deliver these weapons, and they had to send the pieces by Indianapolis ship to the island of Tinian. It's a very long story. I've written a book about it. And then they assembled it there, and they used it against the city of Hiroshima, as you know, on August 6, 1945. They sent it in, and they dropped the bomb, and the whole city was destroyed. I have to explain here that when they dropped this bomb, as a matter of fact, they did not know what is going to happen. People had no idea about all the effects of nuclear weapon and the explosion that takes place. And they sent a big team from England and also from the United States to investigate what happened. When they dropped this from, let's say, about 39,000 feet in the air, they had actually designed this to the explosion take place about 1,900 feet in the air, so the pressure would destroy the whole city. So in 1,900 feet, the thing exploded, as I explained, and at the very first 2 minutes, about 80,000 people got killed, and from 1945 to 1955, a total of 200,000 people got killed of radiation sickness and all. Because when you have something like this, the first thing that happens is the flash. But maybe 100 times more brighter than sun, and it's ultraviolet, and it would burn anything within a radius from epicenter. And then we have the wave, nuclear explosion wave that would level everything down. And then we have a gamma radiation, actually. We have alpha and beta and gamma radiation. Alpha and beta, they are not very penetrating. They are very weak radiation. But gamma radiation is very penetrating. And those exposed to gamma radiation, they did not feel sick in the beginning, because when you are exposed to that, all of the blood cell producing organs are already dead. The bone marrow is not going to be producing any cells anymore, and people don't feel sick for a while, but after the cells die in blood, the blood deficiency creates a lot of problem. And people who were exposed to the gamma radiation did not know and did not feel sick. But from the next week, people started to die. And as I said, a total of 200,000 people died from 1945 to 1955. Unfortunately, 3 days later, they did the same thing with the city of Nagasaki, as you know. And the Fat Man, the plutonium bomb, was dropped on Nagasaki, and about 200,000 people died in Nagasaki. This is one of the really serious tragedies of human history, and as I said, we are very fortunate that it has not been used again, but it is worth noting that after the fall of the Soviet Union, it became evident that the Soviet government had about 60,000 nuclear weapons ready, more than 1,250 tons of enriched uranium, ready to make thousands more, and about 50,000 tons of plutonium. And of course, the stockpile of American weapons was equally horrifying. And then I started to talk about the reduction, but still there are enough nuclear material and nuclear bomb to destroy all of civilization. And after this happened, for some militaries all over the countries, all over the world, this became an ideal weapon. It's such a good idea to have a bomb like this. This is the ultimate weapon. Nobody can attack us anymore. If you want to make trouble, if you have such a thing, it would be a good idea. And the smaller countries started thinking about that. Of course, in those days and those times, it was a top secret. I must say that it was a Russian spy who had come from Germany, and he was in Los Alamos working on the theoretical section, and he would send all the designs and all the components with the great detail to their friends, the Rosenberg family in New York, and they would pass it on to the Soviet Union. And Mr. Kurchatov and other scientists, Sakharov and the rest, they were working on the project in the Soviet Union. They were a little bit behind, but they were working on it. And according to Edward Teller, he said this spy actually made it possible for the Russians to build a nuclear weapon by 1949. And Russians actually exploded their first weapon in 1941 called Joe-1, Joe after Joseph Stalin, and United States and Soviet Union became actually the two, rivals on both sides of the ocean, one capitalist country, the other communist country, and the arms race started. Then other countries followed. Of course, they had the deal with England that whatever weapon United States makes should give it to England. And they gave the secret to England, and the British also actually tested their weapon, and French also. And we know the history of Middle East, and as a matter of fact, Israel learned from the French, and other countries such as Pakistan and India also, because of the hostility that existed there. They work on the project, and as we speak here, 9 countries, they possess nuclear weapon. And North Korea tested one, and our country in Iran, actually, there are some people now working on the project to build a nuclear weapon. However, I must say that things go very sour, and the threat of war is looming over the country over this, because this is a very sensitive area, and I don't have to tell you how serious that is. If Iran could develop a nuclear weapon, and they would be armed in the region, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the rest, they would like to do such a thing, and the instability and lack of democracy there makes it very dangerous to have such a weapon in the region. And when you look back at the history of this, it's very exciting scientifically how this thing was discovered and how nature had hidden such a secret. And if it wasn't for the war and putting together so many bright minds, probably it would take a very long time for human being to discover such a thing. 11 Nobel winners were working at Los Alamos Laboratory on the project. It was an extremely difficult task to do that, and the discoveries that were made from discovery of electron by J.J. Thomson and discovery of proton by Rutherford and neutron by Chadwick and all of that. When you look at the history, scientifically is very exciting to see what happened and how human being could achieve such a degree of scientific achievement is very great. But unfortunately, it was used for building the weapon. And of course, it was used to power ships, submarines, and all of that. It was used for medical purposes. But from the beginning of let's say, from the end of the war up to now, the threat of nuclear war has been in everybody's mind. And fortunately, as I said, it has not been used against any target operationally, but the danger is still there. I made it very quick and very short, this story, and I wrote a book about this subject because of the fact that I did not find any sources in Part C that would speak about Hiroshima and the effect of the bomb. I have seen a few articles, very fragmentary, As a matter of fact, pieces here and there, but I never saw any book in Farsi regarding that, and it was in my mind since I was a 12-year-old boy how this thing happened, and it's really horrifying what happened. I had brought a lot of pictures here to show you today, but the thing did not work. The effect of heat flash and the effect of the bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I had a lot of pictures to show you. Unfortunately, stuff did not work. It is beyond imagination what happens when you do something of that nature. Today, still as we speak, one American submarine that is somewhere under the water, it has a power of 3,000 Hiroshimas carrying in one ship. So you can imagine what kind of a power exists there, and then they have to come to their senses, to the idea of mutual assured destruction. Because they said, okay, if the enemy attacks us, we attack them, we both get destroyed, so that would bring peace. This was the philosophy during the so-called Cold War, and the world came very close to a nuclear exchange during the Cuban crisis. As you know, the Soviet Union had brought their missiles in Cuba, and the Americans found out, and the ultimatum was delivered to Mr. Khrushchev. That was the closest thing ever that the world has come to a nuclear exchange. I am ready, if you have any questions about Iran and the technology and the background, to answer the questions here today. Yes, sir? Yes. Yes.
The Islamic regime is dangerous to have. Does it mean that the Islamic regime has changed the nature of that, or somebody else comes to the power in Iran? That would be okay to have it?
Good question.
Because the balance of the region
Yes.
is going to change after the war of Iraq.
Yes. Okay, that's a good question. As a matter of fact, I wrote an article actually about 2.5 years ago about the subject, and I said if there is only one country that should have ultimate weapon to protect its border, it is Iran, because we have been raped. The country has been taken over by foreign forces times and over. People of Iran have been killed many times, many times and over during the history since 2,000 years ago. So if there is only one country that really needs something that protects its border is Iran. However, with this regime in Iran, which does not represent the people, does not represent the will of people, and the nature of their thought is terrorism, let's say, and making trouble in other nations, I think is not a good idea at this time in Iran for this regime to develop a nuclear weapon. However, if a democratic regime take power and comes to power, I think they should pursue to make whatever necessary to protect the country. Because as history remembers, from the time of Alexander to the time of Saddam Hussein, our country has been taken over, and our people have been killed by some other forces from some other areas, and but the political stability is not there yet, I think. We don't have enough basis, scientific basis, technological basis, to acquire such a thing and keep it safe. Even with a nuclear power plant, I don't think it is safe, because there's a lot of earthquakes, Iran in the zone of earthquakes, and I don't think we have enough basis, scientific and technological basis to have that. We don't have the political establishment good enough and fair enough and to have such a weapon. I think the mullahs, in their horrifying ideas, they are thinking about having such a thing in order to blackmail the neighborhood and cause trouble, and people of the world do not trust the mullahs to have such a weapon. And plus, our country is poor. 40% of Iranians are living under poverty level. And for such a country, it's not necessary to spend $22 billion so far just to research and acquire uranium and plutonium to develop weapons. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, as far as I'm concerned, there was a diesel or one or two diesel submarine bought from Russia. I do not know whether they have a nuclear submarine. But nuclear submarine is not a big deal, actually. It's powered by an engine that the heat is created by nuclear fission. So that's not a dangerous thing to have a nuclear submarine, but I don't think they have it. Yes, sir. Yes. Correct. As a matter of fact, Leo Szilard, who helped develop this, who helped to create chain reaction, as a matter of fact, chain reaction passed the mind of Leo Szilard while he was in England. He was passing a red light. He said, if we have an element that we could attack the nuclei with one neutron, if it releases two neutrons, we have a chain reaction. So he patented it on his name. Leo Szilard did that. And when he came to this country and helped Enrico Fermi in Chicago to build that nuclear power plant with their hands, the United States has to buy this invention from Leo Szilard in order to make their nuclear bomb. However, Leo Szilard was the first scientist who make a petition signed by many, many great scientists and send it to the government and plead with his heart not to use this against people. Leo Szilard was the conscience of the scientific community here in America. But you know what they did was they investigated him, they called him spy, even they interrogated Albert Einstein, who was a friend of Leo Szilard. After the explosion, Albert Einstein also worked very hard because Einstein was a pacifist. And he worked very, very hard, actually, to create a world government in order to control the force of nuclear weapon. But it didn't work. It would be an ideal situation if everybody would be disarmed. But unfortunately, it's not possible, and you are right. This country, Russia, as bad as these people, show them to be, so far they have not given technology to anybody. But this country, the United States of America, has given the technology to many people. It leaked from here, as a matter of fact, and Americans are the only country that they use the nuclear weapon against, the cities, against any civilization. Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
And the U.S. is trying to develop the newest technology again themselves right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to convince the others that not to do so. But as Mike was said first was, he's daring them
To stop. Oh, I see. Okay, let me explain what happens. Okay, technically, for the countries that start this thing, they need at least between 50 to 60 kilograms of enriched uranium purified to about 95 to 98%. Okay, 3,000 centrifuge, I don't think is enough unless you go indefinitely, in 1 year to produce that kind of a material in 1 year. So this is more of a bluffing. Of course, I heard and I read that a lot of Koreans, a lot of Pakistanis, a lot of former Soviet scientists are working inside the country. But a prediction is that if they go full speed with all the capabilities that they have now, they are between 5 to 7 years from acquiring a nuclear weapon. That's what I heard. But question of stopping is very important question. I do not think they can stop Iran unless they go and bomb the installation. That would be a real disaster, but I don't think they can stop Iran. Yes, sir. That is the concern. As a matter of fact, there was a great article in LA Times that the United States is actually considering a plan that in case Musharraf is changed. And they said that CIA and United States, they know exactly where the Pakistani bombs are. They have located them. And they want to know if Musharraf is toppled somehow, who is going to have his hand on Pakistani nuclear weapons? That's a matter of concern. And let me tell you, historically, there was once that Pakistanis were loading nuclear weapon into an airplane. And the CIA, they found out and they go, said, what do you think you're doing? Because they wanted to load it in an airplane. This is a very dangerous proposition. Nobody knew what they're going to do with it. It is very volatile, extremely dangerous, the situation between Pakistan and India. If you go there and talk to people, you can feel it, the hostility that exists there between the Muslims and Hindus, unfortunately. And it is very, very dangerous. Of course, India is very powerful. Pakistan doesn't have any strategic depth. They have few bombs and a couple of missiles or whatever. India has strategic depth. There are books about this, and if God forbid something like this happened, it would be a big disaster, human disaster, if the war breaks out. Yes, sir.
What worries me is that Mullahs in Iran use this partnership to convince West and the United States to lay off fishermen and extend their lives. Do you think they'll eventually come to some sort of terms and then?
Well, the thing is, the mullahs they are using this proposition, this idea in their best interest. Nobody talks about human rights anymore. There are a lot of things going on in Iran, but in West, it seems to me they are only concerned about nuclear weapons. They are hanging people every day in bunches, and nobody is even concerned about that. All the concern is nuclear bomb, and we are not going to let Iran have nuclear bomb, and they are actually using that as a bargaining chip. They may not be as strong and as advanced, that's one might think, because the American information about Iran is very, very limited. They don't know much about it. All they know, there are several installations in Natanz, Isfahan, in Neshabur, and the rest, that they are working on this project. But they don't know exactly what is going on. The country is vast and mountainous. And I don't think IAEA knows too. They don't know everything. That they go to what they want to show them. They say, okay, these people are producing this for peaceful purposes. They have been capable of enriching uranium to 4 to 5%. That is the latest that we know. You have to enrich these things up to 90 to 95% in order to have chain reaction go. You have to have 80 generation chain reaction. You have to have about 95 to 90, let's say 98% pure. They have not been able to do that. And I don't think with 3,000 centrifuges you can do that quickly. Do Saudi Arabians, you mean? As far as the technology is concerned, I haven't heard that report yet. All I know that Saudi Arabia is sucking money in and exporting hate. And whatever happens in the region that is Islamic, Saudi Arabia has his hand on it. because it has money and power, and Americans do not have any leverage on the Saudi government because of the need of the oil. As long as Americans drive, they need Saudi Arabia and they need this government. And I heard that they sent like more than $500 million to the Sunni community in order to kill Shia. They are doing a lot of wrong things, but I haven't heard that Saudi Arabians are trying to acquire any nuclear weapon. Yes, Kia. A good question. This is a basic question. You know, mullahs had fooled many people to the idea that we need electricity and these Americans don't want us to have nuclear power. Nuclear power is our right and we are going to have it. Okay? Nuclear power is a messy thing, is a bad idea, because after the fission material is finished, you have problem with this nuclear junk. You don't know what to do with it. These things are radioactive for more than 3,000 years. Americans have problem with this. Only 15% of American power is produced by nuclear technology. And the Germans and the Europeans are going to shut down, and they promise to shut down all these nuclear reactors, even though they have no oil, they have no gas. In Iran, we have more than 110 billion barrels of proven oil reserve. We have 800 trillion cubic feet of proven gas. I talked to an expert who was in the business of, designing this power plant. He said between $50 to $60 million, we can have a gas power plant producing 2 or 3 megawatts. We do not need that. We have enough energy to supply our people with electricity without getting involved with the dirty business of nuclear power plant. All of those people in third world countries, these dictators who always talk about electricity, oh, we don't have electricity, and Israel got it the same way, for God's sake. All they talk about getting a nuclear power plant for electricity is to have the basic technology to produce plutonium. And South Africa did the same thing. India and Pakistan and Israel all did it the same way. They got the nuclear power plant, then they processed the plutonium, because when you have uranium-238 and uranium-235 in the plant, and after the fusion, you have lots of plutonium involved. You have plutonium, we have plutonium-239, and 240, 241, and 239 and 41 are fissionable materials. You can process them chemically and get the plutonium. And advanced countries, they can make 1 atomic bomb with 4.5 to 5 pounds of plutonium by implosion. So all of these third world country dictators who talk about this, oh, we need electricity, this is the only way, and this is such a good idea. They want the Shah. We don't want to do the same thing. He was going to buy 12 nuclear power plant, producing electricity 8 times more than France. And they were laughing at us. They said, what the Shah wants to do with all of this nuclear plant? He was in his way in order to make nuclear weapon. Because he thought, he said it himself, once I heard it with my own ear, he said, if there are some countries in their area, in the region, who have 2 or 3 funny bombs, why shouldn't we have the bombs? And he probably was right, But all of these countries who talk about the nuclear power plants for electricity, they want to just take the first step towards gaining and processing plutonium. Plutonium is the key word here. Yes, sir. Last question. Yes, Mr. Al Ahmad. Well, Russians been promising the mullahs, for many years that we are going to do this, we are going to do that. Because this is not an easy proposition. This is a 70-ton, actually, of fissionable material manufactured in very precise manner. They have to come and bring it there and set the chain reaction going. But the Russians apparently said, we are not going to give it to you unless you come up with a peaceful idea and prove to us that these activities are peaceful. So Russians, actually, their time that they promised Iran is over by 2 years. They are late almost by 2 years. So the Busher plant actually is sitting idle, and so much money has gone actually to waste. From the Shah's time to Mullah's time, the Russians are not going to do it, and we don't know if ever they are going to come up with the 70 tons of fissionable material for Iraq. Yes, last two questions and then we go. Yes, sir. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh, to stop the Americans? Yes, yes. Well, to tell you the truth, I think there were times that the powerful countries, they were after their interest. At this moment in time, they are concerned about their security. The idea that a dirty bomb explodes in New York or London is just unbelievable economically. Therefore, I think the threat of war is there. Americans may not bring the ground force to Iran because it is impossible. They don't have enough. They have spread ourselves too thin. But if it comes to the point that they cannot do anything else, and the mullahs continue their defiance of international community, it might be an air strike against all of this installation. At least they would say we are going to postpone the project for 7-8 years and to see what happens then. But the threat of attack is there. I do not believe those people who say, oh, they are not going to attack, they are not going to attack, because they feel they are close to making such a thing, they would feel threatened. And with all of these things that has gone past 3-4 years, the security of West is at hand, and I think there would be air strikes, surgical strikes. And some people, unfortunately, talk about using of low-yield nuclear weapon, which is really, really dangerous and ridiculous to even think about it. Yes, ma'am. I cannot hear you, ma'am. I think it's a ridiculous idea. I could never agree somebody attack my country, you know. This is terrible. You see, the tragedy is we Iranian people, we are good people. We build things, the others come and destroy it. We had civilizations, the other came and destroyed it. From Genghis Khan to Alexander to Saddam Hussein, we always build civilization, the others came and destroyed. So I have become really sensitive against that myself as an Iranian. I really don't like the idea. I mean, some people ask me, oh, what do you think? Do you think it's a good idea, you know, somebody attack Iran because mullahs in power? I would never agree to such a thing. And I don't like the idea of somebody attacking my country, killing my people. Any other question?
یک فرد مستحق و مستلزم شناخت بیشتره. در ایران مسئله با این قضیه دشوارتر میشه و گوشه‌هایش رو در و جیوگرافی در انگلیسی هم وجود داشت، در اروپا هم وجود داشت و جیوگرافی زندگی قدیسانه. هدفش توصیف دقیق موضع حضرت عباس میخواد از حضرت عباس یک مدل شخصیت بسازه که همه بتونن ازش دنبال بکنن. هاجیوگرافی دنبال این نیست که بگه مثلا آیا این تاکتیک درستی بود، آیا نبایستی عقب نشینی میکردی، چرا وایسادی. همه این مسائلی که در زندگی نامه واقعی میگیم، در قدیس نامه اینها رو نمیگم. ما این سنت رو داشتیم و به لحاظ این سنت هم مسائل رو یا به شکل شمر میدیدیم، انسانها رو یا به شکل ابلیس میدیدیم یا به شکل قدیس میدیدیم، یا یکی کاملا تجسم نیکیست یا یکی تجسم بدیست. یا دکتر مصدق تجسم تمام نیکی‌های دنیاست یا تجسم تمام پلیدی‌های دنیاست. نوکر انگلیس، نوکر آمریکاست، اشراف فلان، هر چیزی که قش می‌کرده. یا اون طرف تجسم ناسیونالیسم ایرانه و هیچ اشتباهی نکرده. فرود داره. ما در سنتمون بحث با فراز فرود کمتر داشتیم، روایت با فراز فرود کمتر داشتیم. ما نشون دادن پیچیدگی‌های این شخصیت هاست. ما سنت رمان کم داشتیم. یکی از سوال‌هایی که واقعا شاید بیش از هر سوال دیگه از من شده در این چند سال، چه در مورد هویدا چه در مورد شاه، این است که جوابی هم که من به همه میدم یه من به در خدا قرآن دارم بنویسم که بگم این سوال غلطه، نفس این نوع سوال غلطه. آدم خوب بد نیست، آدم ها هم خوبی دارن هم بدی دارن، نیت هست، نتیجه نیت هست، نیت از کجا میشه فهمید و بعد میرسید به کسی در این دوران این شخص تغییر کرده. یک شاه نداریم، این چندین شاه داریم. با اگر بپرسید شاه خوب بود یا بد بود، سوال اولی که کدوم شاه رو میگیم ندارم. سوال من تو هر یک از این مقاطع و لحظات فراز و فرودهایی داره که واقعا یعنی شما مثلا کتاب میشل فوکو رو، میشل فوکو یه محقق فرانسوی است. این کتاب در مورد آغاز جنون مثلا نوشته. این رفته فهرست مریض‌های روانی که در یک تیمارستان فرانسه در 1550 بودن پیدا کرده و ارزیابی دکترام از این مریضان اینقدر مهمه که نگه داشته. من کارنامه مسئله‌ای که در مورد ایران بوده و به دادگاه آمده و به دادگاهی مثل آقای دکتر نجفی که اینجا روز گردن نشستن، یه قاضی منصفی که در دوران شاه بوده برداشته ازش سوال جواب کرده، اون رو پیدا کردن ولی کارنامه حضورا هم شده. برای اینکه اصلا فکر کرده که کارنامه اردو که از برای کارنامه‌اش نکردن، ما اعدامش کردن، نگذاشتن که حداقل این اسنادی که در زندگیش هست در بیاد. اسناد مربوط به دوران شاه عملاً نیستن. میدونیم که این اسناد وجود داره. من در چند گفتم سر رفته بودم به اروپا با یک آرشیو کسی حفظ کردم و این خبر خوش رو میتونم بهتون بدم که قراره که اینها بیاد به دانشگاه استنفورد و به زودی در اختیار همه قرار خواهد گرفت. هزاران صفحه گزارش‌هایی است به اسم گزارش‌های شبیه و اومدن هم محترمانه بوده با دستخط نوشته. کارش رو نکردن و شاید در کنارش یادداشت کرده، جواب دستور بود. اولا شگفت‌انگیز شاید یه جا نیست مثلا اقدام شاید بود نخیر یا هر چیزی دیگه ولی همه موضوعی که می‌خونیم. خب همه اینا یه رفت دفتر اینا کجاست؟ اسناد دفتر مخصوص کجاست؟ مطمئن باشید اگر یک سطر از اسناد دفتر مخصوص جمع شد، 3 جلد از کتاب کردن آخونده بالا به اسم پهلوی‌ها که واقعا کردن. کل مهمترین اسناد دفتر مخصوص من از چند منبع خیلی موثق شنیدم. اینها از ایران خارج شده. کجاست؟ چرا اینا رو در یک کتابخانه نمی‌گذارن؟ چرا اگر کسی هست هیچ سند درست حسابی از آنچه که در دربار می‌گذشته، از در دفتر مخصوص می‌گذشته می‌دونه رئیس دفتر برای دوران بسیار مهمی است. تمام شواهد نشون میده که خیلی دقیق کار می‌کرده. لحظه‌ای که یه مورد سوم می‌زنیم که دستورات لازم صادر شد. گاهی دستورات در کنارش در همراه یه نامه است. یه نامه مثلا معینیان نوشته، یه نامه را عیادی نوشته، یک یادداشت خودش هست. اینا کجاست؟ چرا در نمیاد؟ جمهوری اسلامی در نیاورده. جمهوری اسلامی 50 جلد از اسناد دوران شاه در آورده، واقعا به یک پاپاسی نمیارزه. برای اینکه رفتن اسناد رو دستچین کردن به هر از این ادعاهای دیگه که میکنید اجازه. وقتی که میگید مثلا در یه زمانی 4 میلیارد دلار دیوید فاکس از شاه پرسید مسابقه که میگن شما 4 میلیارد دلار پول بلند کردید. دیوید فاکس گفت من که میگن نمیدونن 4 میلیارد دلار چند تا صفر داره. و درست هم گفت 4 میلیارد دلار خیلی تمام درآمد نفت ایران رو شما در 20 سال بذارید کنار 4 میلیارد دلار شاید نمیشه، من رقم دقیقش نمیدونم، ولی هر رقم بگید 1 میلیارد دلار. خب شما که اسناد و همه رو